So this evening's class, as I said, I've got a bolster because I like to sit on that. I've got a few bricks and blocks to assist as well. And we're going to start sitting down. So I'm going to use my bolster today because it's a very flat bolster. It's the equivalent really of a couple of rolled up blankets. And just bringing the heels in. So it's an easy position for me to sit, but if your knees don't go down to the floor easily, rather than leaving the legs in limbo, if you can take a couple of bricks or a couple of cushions and just put them under the back of the thighs, effectively lifting up the floor and easing the stress on the ankles. And we'll sit up nice and tall and straight. And we're going to start some nasal breaths. So we're going to take the right hand just in front of the face, let those index finger, middle finger onto the forehead. And then use the right thumb to block the right nostril off. We're going to breathe in and out through the left, mouth closed. Try and drop the elbow in towards the chest. It might mean you lean forward a little bit, but it'll be easier on the shoulder. And this will consciously make us slow our breath down. And taking the breath through the left, close the nostril, open the right to exhale. Inhale through the right. Close at the top of the breath and open the left to exhale. Inhale left. Close. Open right to exhale. Inhale right. Close. Open left to exhale. Continue with your own breath pattern. If you get lost, just start again. And we'll just let the hands come back on the thighs, eyes still closed. Maintaining that steady breath. We'll start to work on some breath retention. And take the breath in, hold at the top, and then exhale out. Bottom of the breath, we just breathe straight back in again, slowly and rhythmically. Holding at the top. And then exhaling out. Breathe back in. Hold. And exhale. So approximately, as we breathe in, we'll hold the breath for about half the duration at the top. Allow yourself to start to count your breath in, count the hold, count the exhale, trying to keep that even to the breath coming in. So maybe a 4-2-4 or something similar. Now, if that feels comfortable, you can take it a little further. If it feels uncomfortable, take it back to a regular breath where you just count the in and out to the same beat. And take the next breath in. We'll hold. Exhale. Hold at the bottom. Breathe it in. This is a 4-2-4-2. It can be 3 and 1, 5 and 3, 5 and 2, whatever you want it to be. Just as long as you keep the pattern regular, holding at the top and the bottom of the breath. If it causes anxiety at all, bring yourself back to a normal breath. 1 more minute. And let's sort of come back to our regular breath. And open the eyes. Untangle the legs. Give them a little bit of a stretch out. Maybe just rolling the ankles around a few times to get a little bit of blood flowing through the knees again. And then we'll come up onto all fours. I'm going to take a couple of bricks with me as well to the front of the mat. I'll take a little breath. Come up onto all fours, but I'm going to use my hands on top of the bricks and drawing my right foot through so the knee is over the ankle. I'm going to tuck the toes on the left foot and just ease that foot as far back as I can. So the reason that I'm using the bricks is that I just want to lift my body up enough so that I'm not sort of crushed against my own thigh. First of all, it stops my knee hanging out to the side, which isn't a problem if it's happening, but it's just a little bit more comfortable for me. And it also means that it's nice and easy to breathe. I'm going to let the chest lift a little bit and let the shoulders roll back just a fraction. Let the hips sink down to the floor. Now you can take this ear a little bit higher if you want and actually just bring the forearms onto the front thigh. That just kind of puts a little bit more gravity down through the spine and into the hip joints around the pelvis. So it really is, what feels more comfortable. Belly is soft and relaxed. And And then we'll slowly just step that back to all fours. So I'm just going to tuck my toe on the back foot and bring my foot forwards a little bit. I find that the easiest way to come back onto all fours, but any method works. And then when you're ready, you're going to take the left foot through, front of the mat. Again, just take that little time to lift the back knee off the ground, wriggle the foot back, ease the knee down, find a comfortable position. And then we'll step ourselves slowly back. Again, coming onto all fours. So I'm going to use those two bricks in front and put the block on top. So we've got a slightly raised platform. It's about the same distance apart, those bricks, as the block is wide. Now you could use a bolster if you've got a nice firm bolster, that wouldn't be a problem. From on fours position, we're going to take a little breath. We're going to take the right foot to the outside of the right hand and slide that left foot back again as far as we can. And then bring the elbows down onto the blocks, bolster, or indeed the floor if you're able to get that low. Remember, we're trying to keep this to be a comfortable posture. So if you push yourself too much to get down to the floor because you think that's a better thing to do, and your breathing is sacrificed, then you're probably not allowing yourself to relax into the pose. You're going to get a very big stretch into this front hip and into the front groin and into the hamstrings and abductors. You might feel it a little bit in the back leg as well. So this evening's class is called the 6 Degrees of Freedom. It's a class plan. The yin aspect of it was borrowed from a principal yin teacher called Bernie Clark. So gratitude to him. And then we're going to lift ourselves up and bring ourselves back onto all fours. So again, I'm going to choose to walk my back foot in a little bit, bring myself back on all fours. Might need to wriggle out the hips a little bit from side to side after that one. It's quite a strong pose. And then when you're ready, you're going to take the left foot outside of that left hand. Take a little breath. Walk the right foot back, deep into the back of the mat. So knee is approximately still over the ankle, although the knee will hang out to the side tremendously. When you're ready, ease yourself down, maybe in increments. If you roll off onto the side of the foot, so you need to turn the foot out to the side, again, all those things that make you feel comfortable are the things that your body needs you to do. So follow what your body wants to do. Use your instinctive function body guide that everybody has, but sometimes we stop listening to. Again, we try and have the shoulders in a fairly relaxed position. So if they're very hunched up around your ears, maybe just consider moving them towards the pelvis a little bit and see if that eases off any tension. Position of the head is really up to you, again, where you feel comfortable. We'll take a little breath from there, and we'll bring ourselves back up again on the exhale. And then as I move myself around, I'm going to move all of the bricks and blocks out bar one brick. Just stretch the legs out a little bit. And again, onto all fours. I'm going to take the brick over to the left side, just place my hand on that. Right foot comes forwards, foot deliberately spins out. I'm going to move the left foot as far back as I can. And then I'm going to let the right knee hang out to the side, take it into a twist, so a twisted lizard pose. Let's see if I can let the hips sink down to the floor. Just gently rotate the chest round to the side. See how that feels. Really deep muscles in the hips, and pelvis muscles, glute muscles, lower back muscles, all linked together in this pose. You might notice a sense of dropping after 5 or 6 breaths and finding a new edge. And then we'll bring the hands to the floor again. Just move my brick out the way. Bring myself back onto all fours. Again, a little stretch out through the legs if you need to. And I'm going to move that brick over onto the right side. On all fours, taking the left foot forwards, heels just on the corner edge of the mat, toes point out to the side. Slide the right foot away, lower it down gently on top of the toes, so it's nice and relaxed. Let the stuff start to sink into the twist. Hand on the side, just easing the leg out to the side a little bit. And then we're back to all fours again. easing our way back. Now I'm going to use the block again from all fours. I'm going to pass that between the thighs down towards the ankles a little bit, and then from all fours position, I'm going to bring the knees together so they touch. And slide the left knee forwards, and then cross the foot over towards the right as I bring the thighs back on top of each other. We're going to come into a shoelace pose, which means that the thighs are on top of thighs, legs are crossed, and the feet go out towards the corner edges of the mat. Once you feel you've moved as far as you can, very gently sit back onto that block, which might need to be more than just one block. It could be even sitting on the end of the bolster. If there's any really sharp pains in the knees or the ankles, obviously you want to sit back up again and move out and adjust. It might be that you need to do that as a single-legged version. And the single-legged version, the bottom leg would be extended out and you'd be sitting on the floor rather than on the block. It keeps the knees safe. We'll take a little breath from there. And then we're going to start to let the body fold forwards and sink our chest and ribs over the thighs. Take the hands onto the floor, let the head hang. See how it feels, particularly around the glutes. And you could use the bolster if you've got a strong, firm bolster, and just have it at an angle coming from the floor into the chest and lift yourself up a little higher. Or if you like going lower, very low on this, and you're able to get your chest and ribs onto the thigh, you can come down even further, taking the hands forwards. So a couple of little modifications there that can be performed. And on the exhale, we'll lift up, draw ourselves forwards, untangle the legs. Take a little breath, bring the knees together again, and this time we draw the right knee forwards. Cross that foot over to the opposite side, so thigh on top of thigh. Take a little time for that to kind of sort of squidge itself into place. Take the feet out wide, you can have a little wriggle, sort of like a preset if you like, and then start to ease yourself back slowly. Again, just taking your time. If it gets too painful on the joints, you just ease yourself back out. You want to be sitting on the block, so hopefully that's somewhere near the right place for you. To get both cheeks down. And we'll spend a moment here just relaxing, letting the legs get used to being in position. And then if you wish to, you're going to lift the body up a little bit, fold over, take the hands forwards. Now, you don't have to get to the same place on both sides. I find that your legs are stiffer in one formation than the other. But legs have to ease in wherever you get to. Use the props as you wish or need to. And then we'll start to lift back out of that. Draw ourselves forwards. Untangle the legs. We'll still use the block behind us. Turn that from portrait to landscape. And just swing the feet out to the side so we can sit back gently. I'm going to take caterpillar pose. So once the legs feel okay, we'll move into this pose. The real thing is that this is not a forward fold. This is about letting the spine round. So we're going to drop the chin in towards the chest, let the pelvis tilt back a little bit so the belly kind of draws in, and then let the chest sink down towards the floor, down through the groin. Just placing the hands gently on the thighs or on the floor, whatever feels comfortable. And letting yourself compress the spine down. It's going to be here for a couple of minutes. Obviously, the opportunity to breathe into the belly gets a bit restricted. Feels about 70% restricted, to be quite honest. So the breath moves into the back of the shoulders and the ribs. Let me see if we can let them expand and work. It's good for stretching out the back of the neck as well. See if we can still tap into that rhythmic breath that we worked on at the beginning of class. A feeling of heat along the outside edge of the spine to the back of the mat. It's mostly a fascia line being stretched out along with the muscles. We'll take a little breath, bring the hands to the floor, and as we exhale, just start to unravel the spine a little bit, let ourselves sit up. As we do so, we'll take the feet out wide as you comfortably can. And when you take your feet out wide, if your feet tend to sort of roll out to the side, that's fine. If they roll into the center, it's fine. If they happen to be sticking up towards the sky, that is also fine. We'll draw the left heel into the groin. Allow ourselves to sit up tall. We're going to lift the hip bones up and then fold them over the sides. And this is a forward fold, so we're going to take the hands out and just let the spine hang down. Now again, you could use a bolster. You could use a bolster directly into the chest like that, or you could place it on the floor and just allow the elbows to come down so somewhere to rest. Yes, quite often we feel like we're sort of leaning out to the side in this pose as we're sitting predominantly on one sitting bone. In this case, the right cheek lifts a little bit. Now, providing that's not an obscene amount of leaning out to the side, then that's fine. You can, if you're comfortable, stay there. If you're able to think about encouraging that sitting bone to sit down a little closer to the floor, or relaxing the muscles in the back of the legs. So you're not trying to push it down, but we're trying to let gravity sort it all out for us. We're just giving it the body permission to move in those directions. And we'll start to lift ourselves back up. And we'll take the legs out nice and wide again. Give that leg a little bit of a shake out if we need to. And then when you're ready, we'll bring the right heel in. Take a moment. Remember, we're going to try and lift the hips up off the ground and then fold them forwards and see how that feels. Again, just taking care of how that feels down the inside, the back of the leg, also through the spine, the hip joints. All of the things we said before, really. Again, allow yourself to find that comfortable position. And sinking forwards gently. And we'll let ourselves lift again, back out of that. And we'll take the legs out wide again. Now this time we're going to take a little breath and we're going to turn the body towards the right thigh. Just have the hands either side. And then let ourselves straddle over that thigh as we come down. Really concentrating on letting that right leg release. Just let it find its own place. It can and probably will move around in the pose. As the body gets more used to being in this slightly side bendy kind of position. Use the hands pressing the floor to lift up. Turn back to the center. Take our time to turn to the left. So aiming to turn the heart so it's in line with the knee joint. And then leaning forwards gently. Just taking the hands outside for balance of the legs. Folding down. You may well be able to get a lot lower than me, or you might be higher. Again, it's not about where you get to, it's about how it feels. So generally, there's something in the body that feels a little bit tight or is being stretched strongly. And then we'll roll ourselves back up out of that. We'll draw all the hands underneath the thighs to bring the legs back in. And I'm going to lie down onto the floor. And I'm going to have my bolster, which is my tool of selection this evening, on my right side. I'm going to use that, not this pose, but the pose afterwards. Take a little breath here. Allow ourselves to extend the arms out nice and wide, like a crucifix. I'm going to take a little breath, and I'm going to take my left hand onto my chest, roll it across, turn my body into the right side. Now the knees are bent. There's a line down my torso towards my heels. It's an imaginary line, but I hope it's there. And take a little breath from here and then extend the top leg out to the side. So that's a straight leg. Then the bottom leg, which has got a bend in it already, I'm going to bring the heel in towards the bottom a little bit. And see if I can move my knee towards the front edge of the mat. And as I do, I'm going to take my left hand and find that right foot and draw the heel in towards my bottom. So at this point, I'm going to then see if I can roll the shoulders down to the floor. So there's a little bit of wriggling going on. To get into place. And then if it feels comfortable, you stay. Now you can move the extended foot out to the front, closer to the front of the mat if you want to or need to. But you want to have that foot resting on the floor. If it's hanging in the air, it's not really going to help too much. The longer you sit in the pose, the more the spine will free up, and the easier it will be to let the shoulders sink down to the floor. So they might not get particularly close at the beginning, but they'll get it slowly. If you want to turn the head over to the left side as well, if that feels good, you can do. And we'll release from there. So I'm going to let the hand that's holding the foot release first. Lengthen the leg back out. Swing the top leg in, and then bring my feet a little bit closer into my bottom as I roll myself back onto the center line. Ready to take it to the second side. So I'm going to allow myself to take my right hand onto my chest, roll that across, come onto my side body. Keep the head in line with the rest of the spine. It's easy to start looking down towards your toes. Try and look to the side of the mat. Allow yourself to extend the top foot out. Find a comfortable place. And then see if you can draw the heel in towards your bottom a little bit so you can use your foot to wriggle. And then start to take the knee towards the front of the mat. Again, you can use your foot to help this. Take the right hand over, find your foot. Drawing the heel in towards the buttock to begin with, and then start thinking about rolling this shoulder down to the floor to see how far you can get. Maybe after 4 or 5 breaths, you can wriggle a little bit closer to getting that shoulder down. Now, some people's spines just, they're not going to have the range ability to rotate around to get the shoulder on the floor. So it is a question of just sort of letting the body find its own space rather than to try and jam yourself into any particular position. So this is a pose called the cat's tail. And we're going to let ourselves release from here. So releasing the lower foot, sliding the legs back, draw the knees in towards the body a little bit as you spin onto your spine so the knees are high. This is where we're going to take that bolster to the right side. The feet are coming in close to the bottom and centering on the center line. I'm going to extend the right foot and leg down the center line of the mat. I'm going to move the hips gently over towards the left and bring the left foot on top of the right thigh. Rotate over, and then I'm just going to place the ankle, shin, and the knee onto my bolster. So it could be a series of blocks or cushions. I'm going to use my right hand on that left leg. And the shoulders are a lot closer on the ground in this case. The hips stacked on top of each other. And again, let ourselves roll out of that easily. So bringing the hips back into the center. Roll my bolster over to the opposite side. Take the hands out wide again. Just move the hips over to the right. So again, that's that instinctive, functional body reliance to work out where to go. Right foot comes onto the left thigh as I roll my body over towards the left. So foot, ankle, shin, knee, all just touching lightly on the bolster. So the whole leg is supported, and then the shoulders hang down. Again, we'll release from there. So we're going to move a little bit more into the yang section. So as we roll onto the side, use the hands to ease myself around, move the props out of the way, and come up onto my hands and knees. We're going to take a little bit of a cat-cow, so just drawing the chest forwards, exhaling out, just tilting the tailbone down, tilting the tailbone up, letting the rest of the spine follow, drawing the shoulders back. Exhale, press into the floor, round the shoulders out, lift as high as you can. Inhale forwards, exhale out again. We'll take it into a little bit of a barrel roll. So we'll just start to let the elbows move as well, the hips, let the head follow. And we'll take a few times in the opposite direction. See how that feels. And we'll lift ourselves up into down dog. So we're going to tuck the toes underneath, sit the heels back, walk the feet out towards the back of the mat. And I'm going to walk the legs out very gently from side to side. Not necessarily the only way you can do down dog. You can be nice and still. You can take a big bend in the knees and work a little more into the shoulders, lower back, upper back. And we take a little breath here, come into a nice steady position in down dog and walk the fingers towards the toes, or coming into the back of the mat. Slowly into a forward fold. Trying to keep the feet parallel as we do. Take as much bend in the knees as you need to bring your thighs and your ribs together. Let the head hang. Try and have the weight even between the front and the back of the foot and the sides. Let the hips lift to the sky as you draw the belly in on the exhale. Now we'll bring the hands onto the shins and come halfway up. The length of the chest straight forwards and the tailbone back. Just observe the weight being even through the feet as I move. Exhale, fold over again. And then let myself drop down to the floor. Bring the hands onto the shins to lift up. Fold it down. We'll take one more. Hands to the shins. And fold it down. Now bring the hands onto the hips, chest forwards, soften the knees, flat back to lift. Take the hands up towards the sky on the inhale, palms together. Exhale, just let the arms float out to the side, using the whole of the breath to bring the hands back towards the hips. Take that 3 times. And as you bring your hands down for this final time, let the hands come behind your back, interlace your fingers and draw the hands down towards the floor. Just let yourself to squeeze the shoulder blades together a little bit and then draw the ribs back down towards your pelvis. You're going to take the feet a little wider than perhaps they were, just a few inches. Take a breath, we're going to hinge forwards, that long flat back. Then we'll start to fold the spine down and we'll let the hands lift towards the sky. Now, if it feels good, you can squeeze the shoulder blades together and let the hands move a little more towards the front of the mat. Again, trying to keep the weight even between the feet. We've got a bigger base to work with, so hopefully that will help a little bit in terms of getting some feedback from the ground. Now I'm going to release the hands towards the hips and then the floor. Take a little breath. Stay here for just about 1 or 2 exhales. And then we'll soften the knees and bring the hands onto the hips, along flat back to lift up. We'll shake it all out a little bit and we'll walk ourselves carefully up to the front of the mat, shaking the legs out at times we do it. Coming to the front of the mat, we're going to bring the feet together so they touch. Take a little breath. I'm going to do it this way. Now I'm going to take the weight into my right leg. Draw the knee high. And then start to use my hands to take around the shins. I'm going to find something to fix my focus on. Try and keep the bottom leg pressing down into the floor, which might sound a bit ridiculous. Like you're standing on that leg anyway, but you can push down a little further. Avoid pressing the knee back. Think about pressing down. And then we'll let that foot come to the floor. Shake out both feet so the ankles get that little bit of a respite. Bring the toes back together again. Take a breath. Now I'm going to start to take the weight into the left leg. But be careful not to let the hip hang out too much when you bring that back on, underneath the body. And then take the opposite leg. Again, knee up to about the height of the hip. Take another breath and then squeeze a little further and see if you can bring the hands around front of the shin. Oops, it's interesting. Can't do it that side this evening. Take a last little breath, let the foot come down. And shake out both feet. Well done. I saw you were still standing on one leg when I was hopping around. We'll take a little breath from there. Bring the hands up towards the sky and towards the heart. We're going to hinge forwards down to the floor. Step the right foot to the back of the mat, a big step, and drop the heel in ready for warrior 2. So bring hands onto the front side. Just check the knee stays over the ankle, and then take that right arm up and over towards the back of the mat. Let ourselves lift the left hand forwards, looking through the middle finger. I want to try and get an even weight between both feet. And notice whether your body is leaning forwards. So I'm trying to get these hips to feel like these bones are the same distance from the floor. Let the feet spread and relax out a little bit as you press down into it, so you're not gripping onto the ground. You're going to take the hands above the shoulders, so nice straight arms. Rotate the hips and the chest towards the front mat. We're going to spin the heel on the back foot up towards the sky. So we come into a high crescent pose. You're pressing out through the back heel. Last breath. Let ourselves bring the hands down to the floor. Step into the front of the mat, into the forward fold. Bring the hands onto the hips, soft knees and a flat back to lift. And take the hands skywards again on the inhale. Then hands into the heart and hinge forwards. You'll take the left foot back, deep. Drop the heel in again, so it's heel to heel alignment that we're looking for. front knee over the ankle. Hands onto the thighs to lift up. And then allow that left arm to come up towards the sky and out towards the back of the mat. Allow that right hand to come forwards. Try and look out through the third finger or the middle finger. And we'll lift the hands again straight up above the shoulders. Reach the fingers up towards the sky. Slowly rotate round, lift the heel. So coming very much onto the ball of the foot on that back leg. Press out through the heel. Keep the hips square to the front of the mat. Pubic bone travels forwards a little bit. So make space in the lower back. Again, we'll let the hands come down to the floor and step ourselves into that forward fold. Come up for the last time, hands onto the hips to lift up. Float the hands towards the sky, into the heart. Exhale over. Bring the fingers to the floor. This time we'll step back temporarily into down dog. And then let the knees come down to the floor underneath us, so we're almost into tabletop. We'll spin the feet out to the side. And just let the legs lengthen out in front of us. Bring the block into play again, so I'm going to bring that underneath my bottle. It could be a folded blanket. I'm going to take Janu Shasana. So I'm going to bring the right heel into the groin. Now again, if the knee doesn't go down, a block, a brick, a cushion, something that rises the floor up to help you. Square the hips, so these guys turn towards the front of the mat. Turn the leg in slightly so the toes point up towards the sky. We get that internal rotation sorted out. Start to flex the foot back and put a little bit of bend in the knee. You're going to lift your body up as if your ribs and your hips and everything can lift. Fold forwards. Take the hands down the shin towards the ankle. And then allow yourself to continue to lift up. Try not to let the head drop, so you should be looking several feet ahead. Keep the toes flexed back. And we can release. We'll take it to the second side. So we're only holding the pose for about 30 seconds or so in this instance. We spend probably as much time getting into it as we do holding it. So again, just square yourself up, rotate the thigh in, a little bend in the knee, remember. Lift the body up, fold it over, slide the hands down the shin towards the ankle. Maybe you can get the hands around the feet if you can lean a little further forwards. But remember, you're trying to lift up. Just as a footnote, literally, the left foot is flexed towards the knee. So that's the bent knee out to the side. I'll take a little breath from here, release, and we're going to take it into a seated twist. So I'm going to lengthen both legs out to start with, give them a little shake, and then I'll take the right leg underneath and out to the left hip. Check that the right knee is pointing forwards. It's relaxed. I'm going to take the left leg across, and to take the right arm up towards the sky on a breath in, rotate the body to the left and bring their hands down towards the floor. So one to the front, one to the back. Look over the rear shoulder. Try and press the pelvis forwards a little bit to take the roundness out of the lower back and lift the spine up a bit. And we can release from here. Untangling the legs. We'll take it into the final side. So just left leg comes around. Make sure the sitting bones are on the block. Take the right leg over. Make yourself to sit up nice and tall. Take that left arm up to the sky, rotate the body, and then bring the hands down to the floor. Press the pelvis forward just that little bit. Get that spine really nice and upright. So it starts from the foundation point, follows through to the crown of the head. And we'll let ourselves release from there. And let the legs out in front. Now we're going to make a little ramp. So I'm going to use my block and my brick. We're going to come into a reclined twist. And I'm going to use a bolster, which could very well be just a rolled up blanket, like a sausage. And then that's the front of my mat. So I'm going to turn to the right side of the mat. I have about a fist's gap between the bolster and my hip bone. So the center of my hip bone travels up the center line of the mat. I'm going to put a 90-degree bend in this bottom leg. So my right leg points out to the side of the mat. My shin follows the line of the mat. My toes point out to the side of the mat. Now the knee doesn't come down to the floor at that point. I'm going to take my left hand and just lean myself forwards a little bit. Scoot the left leg round. Allow myself to take that top leg down the center line of the mat. Again, it's a nice right angle for the shin and the toes. And then I'll turn the body very gently in towards the bolster. And I'm just going to stay there for a moment because it's quite a big stretch on the spine. The first thing you immediately notice is that bottom knee has now come down to the floor. Back hip has lifted up a little bit and rotated round. That's fine. Got a little bit of length going through the body and twist. So you might feel some abdominal muscles or oblique muscles feeling a little bit strange. And then when you're ready, you're going to lie down onto the mat. And we're going to be here for about 3 or 4 minutes. You can take the arms out and the elbows to a comfortable place. And then we'll just simply rest. Closing the eyes is a nice option. I'm going to start to lift myself slowly back out. So bring the hands onto the floor, press away, rotate round to the side of the mat. So I'm going to move the props towards the rear of the mat this time. And I want to make sure that the end of the bolster or my blanket is on the end of the block there, so it's properly supported. So again, sitting out with the legs to the right, bottom leg as I lean into the bolster bends, that's those nice 90 degrees. Top leg swings around, down the center line of the mat, and then as you bend the knee will come into the floor. So those 90 degrees, swastika-esque type legs. You turn around slowly. And then ease yourself down gradually. Just checking that it feels comfortable. I'm going to start to press down gently to lift back up. And allow myself to untangle my legs. And then I'm going to use the same ramp for a supported Shavasana. I'm going to take the knees wide and then let the knees drop in towards the center. So they're taking the least amount of strain into my spine. Make sure that my pelvis is enough of a distance away from the bolster that as I lie down, the head will be completely supported. You want to be careful that it's not hanging off the end. And then letting the hands come out to the sides. If you feel that you can lengthen the legs out comfortably and it still feels nice underneath your lower back and then the pelvis, then that's great. But if you know that that's an area that tends to get a little bit tender, remember your back's done a lot of work. So the nicer we are now, the better that work will pay us in terms of dividends. Continue to stretch and work it all the way to the very end of the class. then we've kind of missed out on the restorative impact that we could have had. The chest should feel nice and open, easy to breathe into the ribs. Shoulders sink down either side of your bolster or your blanket. And we'll start to stretch those fingers and toes. Put some little wriggles into the wrists and the ankles. And then I want to draw the heels in towards my bottom a little closer. Go roll onto my right side. So slide off of the bolster and then use the hands to lift up gently as I exhale. Let's sit up nice and tall. Whatever feels like a comfortable position. Lengthen the spine. Just wriggle the shoulders around a little bit. Maybe the back of the neck. Let the hands come into the heart as you close your eyes, taking a breath in. On the exhale, let the chin drop to the chest. Draw the belly in and bow gently to the floor to seal our practice. On the inhale, let that breath lift us back up. Open the eyes. Namaste. Thank you for joining me.